We got a lot going on today. Later on in the morning, we're going to launch our new website. And we're having a wonderful community meeting after to talk about our building and our future plans. All kinds of stuff. But I want to kind of slip in between all that busyness. You know, there's a little lull between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's kind of like a window where we could do some real thinking about 2019, what we want to take into it and what we want to leave behind. And I'm not talking about resolutions. Anybody make resolutions that you don't keep? There's some statistics on that, you know. It said that 2% of people are the only ones who remember their resolutions 2 weeks after January 1st. So it doesn't bode well for resolutions. No, this is far more intentional. I love what you read today because it's right on the money for this. It begins with an acknowledgement of how our interior life reveals itself as our outer life. That's always our starting point for everything we do in this teaching, which means we need to own our thoughts and release some of them and perhaps adopt some new ones, new ideas. And there's a way to do that that's very creative and a lot of fun. So you want to play today a little bit? Sure. All right, so open up your mind. Every year for the past 5 years or so, I have participated in a little ritual called Name Your Year. And it is to name 2019. And then to allow ourselves to be led by that. It's kind of a personal vision. It's to set an intention with a very broad, sweeping affirmation. For example, last year, I named 2018 the year of living my destiny. That's a pretty big affirmation. But I know that it was kind of a guiding energy for me that moved me out of semi-retirement and back into active ministry, which is my destiny, and I set that up a long time ago in my life. So think of 2019 as a book you're going to write, but you already have the title. I love thinking up book titles, and even if I never write them, it's just kind of a fun thing to do. So think of it that way. You're going to write a book this year, and you've already got this great title. And you'll begin to live as the main character. You're the protagonist in this wonderful story you're going to write, and the plot will be up to us entirely. So by naming 2019, we have something to refer back to. You know, it's all about being congruent, isn't it? So when we name our year, I think this year, I'm just playing with this one, the year of outrageous success. The outrageous. Come on, react. Outrageous is a great word because you don't know what that actually means. It's just outrageous, beyond expectation. Then we get to look at what the choices we're making, the actions we're taking, the things we are supporting, and we can ask ourselves, well, is that congruent with my year? Perfect. Yeah, is that congruent? Does it support my vision, or is it moving it forward or not? You know, it's a very great thing. And so I would encourage you, once you name your year, to write it out or print it out on your computer and put it all over the place in your house, like little banners. The year of, and name your year and put it everywhere so your eye can see it. So it's kind of this personal vision statement that helps to remind us of our intention, and then we can check in with it. So let's begin by revisiting the deeper desires of our hearts. So just take a second to just relax and open your mind and ask yourself this: what is in me that still wants to be fulfilled? Everybody has something that is not fulfilled as yet. Everybody has something big that they tucked away because it may have seemed too big, or it wasn't the right time, or the people involved weren't supportive, whatever it is. What is in you that still wants to be fulfilled? And then, number two, what have you denied yourself but know in your heart it belongs with you? One of my favorite quotes from Ernest Holmes is, "That which belongs with me cannot be kept from me." We want to have that attitude about our desires. We have a desire because it's real, it's an energy, and it's in us, and it wants out. It wants to be revealed. So when we name our year, has to be something way above our current experience in order to pull us up and out, in order to grow us. You know, everybody has a growing edge. And the growing edge is what you reach when you get scared. Is when you think, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And when you think, this is too big for me, that's a great place to be, and you want to be there. Most people opt for comfort. We talked about this a few weeks ago. But nobody here does. I know that in this crowd. We're all forward thinkers, right? Yes, forward thinkers. I affirm that for you and me. Okay, so our year has to be above our current experience or an expansion of it. So maybe you're already on the right track and you're moving forward in a certain direction that you really like. So name it as, make it bigger even, expand it out. Maybe you've been struggling with ill health, and I'm just using this as an example because it could be anything. What if you named your year the year of radiant vitality? Because vitality is a spiritual energy, it's a quality of spirit that becomes the human experience of health. The year of radiant vitality. Say it out loud. The year of radiant vitality. That could be for all of us, even if we haven't had an ill health problem for a while. But your local mind, when you say something that's way bigger than you're used to, your habituated thought mind will resist it, right? So if you see it as an intention, though, it's a guiding principle. You can start to relax and participate in it, and you can follow it. So when it resists it, you have to counter that. You can't really predict how this is going to play out. Here's one relating to the health issue. I heard someone say this the other day. But it runs in my family. You got to throw that out and respond with, but it has no place in my consciousness. So whatever it is that the world is telling you you can't do because this or that, you just say, that has no place in my consciousness. I don't believe that. I don't believe that is a really good affirmation when you're constantly faced with what the world thinks you should think, or what you see on the news, or anything else, or even your well-intended friends that tell you, tamper it down a little bit, kid. You're thinking too big. It's never going to happen. So the first step after naming your year is to do an end-of-the-year inventory, like any business does, of your current and active beliefs or attitudes, and release the ones that are incongruent with your naming, with your heart's desires. You see how we get in our own way? The heart wants something, but then we start thinking things that deny it, that say it isn't possible, that say you can't have that. If it's financial, let's look at that one because everybody loves that one. You might name your year, my year of lavish success, or the year of constant prosperity. What would that look like for us? If it's a year of constant prosperity, how do we participate in it? What will we be required to do? What will it ask of us? And if we're lack-talking, if we're withholding, if we're not sharing, we're not giving, we're not being congruent with constant prosperity. You've got to participate in it and actually do what it does, which is circulate. That's what prosperity is circulation. Hello? If that's Brad Pitt, tell him I'm busy. Okay. So the old belief will rear its head. Have you ever noticed that when you try to change your mind, and then a couple of days later you got all this resolve and it's going to be great and you're going to do this or that, and then a couple of days later the old ideas pop up. And the old idea will say something like, well, the economy's probably going to tank this year. I mean, I've been reading these articles about what the economy does. So you have to respond. And you want to say this out loud. My prosperity is generated from spirit, not from the economy. Say that out loud. My prosperity is generated from spirit, not from the economy. You know, I remember once when I lived in Canada. Remember Peter Jennings? He was a great news anchor. He's from Canada. And I remember him saying this once. It just blew my mind. He said, you know, they're talking about a downturn in the economy. He says, that's nothing but people making it happen by the way they believe. I went, whoa, that is so right on the money, so to speak. No pun intended. But that's what it is. It's not a thing that happens. It's people participating in a certain way that make it happen. So we want to participate in prosperity in a way that allows it to come through us. And we name our year the year of constant prosperity, or anything else you can think of that means something to you. So what makes this whole thing easier is remembering the power of thought. I quoted this a while back, but I'm going to do it again. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, he said, this is on page 267 of the Big Science of Mind book, no person whose entire time is spent in the contemplation of limitation can demonstrate freedom from limitation. Yeah, content of our mind. Now, another way of saying this is what you think about tends to come about. But it's not an idle thought or two. We were talking in class the other night about how when you're really working with this, you can start to get afraid of your own thoughts. You think, oh my gosh, was that going to happen? Is that going to happen? And Holmes was very clear about this. He said, you don't have to be afraid of those fleeting ones. It's a tendency of thought. It's the atmosphere you walk in. What's that little peanut character that walks around with a dirt cloud around him all the time? A pig pen, yeah. Well, that's us. We walk around in a consciousness bubble, and we walk into it, and there's things in there that belong with it. People, amounts, opportunities. I use this analogy about, because I lived in Hawaii, it was about the hukilau. Did I do this one here before? Well, I used to watch these old Hawaiian guys. And they'd stand on the rocks, and some Japanese guys. It's quite an art to throw out the net. Whoosh. It's huge, it's very heavy. And they wait, and they see the fish, because the water's so clear you can see them. And they wait till they come. There's a school, and then they throw that net, and it surrounds them, and then they pull it in, and they feed the whole village. That's what consciousness is like. It's like a net we throw out. And we walk into it, and what belongs with us is in there with us. It's in our immediate experience, right? So we want to create an atmosphere of prosperity, an atmosphere of health, an atmosphere of vitality and love and joy and peace, all the things, the qualities that we attribute to God. We want to create an atmosphere of that in our own mind. And you do it with thought. You do it with ideas. You do it with being around people who support the good, the true, and the beautiful. Places like this. This is what we're for here, is to remind us of who we really are and what we're capable of creating this wonderful life that we would all be proud and happy to live. As one of my favorite affirmations is, I live a life worth living. I love being me. I love my life. These are great affirmations to keep us in the contemplation of the greater. So notice your conversation. Nowadays, it's pretty easy to get involved in the ain't it awful conversation. We want to really watch that. We want to really participate with this, what's going on on a higher level all the time. See through it. Judge it righteously. Something's trying to happen. Something good is trying to happen. Since I came here, several things have happened that if I wanted to think of them as negative, I could, but they have, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but it's just been like click, 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 click. This happened, so that could happen. That happened, so that could happen. And it's all been positive. It's all been wonderful, and it's even affected my daughter. We're so close that some of it affected her. It's just been perfect. So we want to make sure we don't call things what they're not. We want to make sure we name them for what they are. Another indication that life is supporting me. every single thing that goes on. If we're doing our work, if we're doing our meditations and our affirmations and our treatments, then everything that happens is in the net, is in the atmosphere of our thought, and is appropriate to us and is pushing us forward. So say this out loud. Life is for me and never against me.
Life is for me and never against me.
It's true. This is the basis of this teaching. It's what Ernest Holmes taught. It's always life supports life. Intelligence responds to intelligence. Love responds to love, yes? This is exactly what we're talking about, building a consciousness that we want to see in our life. Okay, so 2019 could be the year of changing my mind, the year of spiritualizing my thoughts. A spiritualized mind is a very different mind than an unspiritualized mind. A spiritualized mind sees possibility, is grateful, sees through appearances and judges it righteously. So the joy of this teaching is the realization it's never too late, you're never too old or too young. We can elevate our experience anytime that we choose to give our mind the respect it deserves. And I know that's one we can all think about, because some of us just let any old thoughts in there, right? Do you ever hear yourself thinking something and you go, oh my God, what am I thinking? It's good if you can check it like that, but you don't want your mind just to run off. People are tyrannized by their own mind, terrorized by their own mind. It's all within. So we want to give our mind some respect and focus on what it is. Our mind is the mind of God, if you want to put it that way. Individualized, personified. It's the way for spirit to reveal itself individually in this time-space dimension. That's why we have a mind, is to individualize it. And why would we have that? To drive creativity forward. We need individualized expression to push the whole species of humanity forward and to discover and invent. So our mind is to be cherished. It's a sacred thing. And of course, I'm talking about the mind that's behind the ego. I'm talking about the mind we contact in meditation, the deep stillness, the deep silence, that place in us where everything originates, the center of our center. That's our real mind, and we can think from that place if we allow ourselves to listen to what's going on and let things go we don't want to have in there anymore. It's that simple. It's like cleaning house. And meditation helps you. You know, I often think of a regular meditation as like this cosmic broom that sort of sweeps things out that don't belong in that house, this thought house. But in children's junior programs, we often teach them about building a thought house. And you actually live in your thoughts. And that you can remove things and move the furniture around and add new things. It's kind of a cute, simple little image, but it really works, is that we're building something with our mind. So it's kind of a container. And at the same time, our mind is a conductor, if you will. It participates with the creative process and gives it shape, gives it form, gives it outlet. The creative process is always active. We're constantly directing it, whether we know it or not. And if our life is a thing of repetition, it's simply that we haven't given our mind some new ideas. You know, as far as the universal mind is concerned, or principle is concerned, and it isn't, but if it were, repetition doesn't exist. Everything is constantly new. God is the power that makes all things new. Ernest Holmes said that God doesn't repeat as universal law. Everything is a brand new creation all the time. Meister Eckhart of the 13th century said, God is forever begetting the only begotten, and that's what that means. So our heart's desire would be a brand new creation and doesn't have to be influenced by old experiences, as long as we keep our mind stayed on the higher idea of it and claiming it as our life. So naming our year can be really powerful and a lot of fun. And I would really encourage you to do it. We have a lot going on today, but next week in our Talk About the Talk, maybe we'll go into this a little more if you need some guidance or help about really lifting it up to a higher level than just an affirmation. Okay? So our desire isn't created by the past if we stay in the current. And the current is now, and it's also the spirit. And the word current connotes energy. It connotes movement. And spirit, the spirit, is movement and energy. And it moves along the path of least resistance, and which means open-mindedness. Open-mindedness. Think of what it is that your heart is desiring, and say to yourself, I am completely open to the fulfillment of this desire. Completely open. So often we resist it because we bump up against that growing edge and we think, oh, I don't know if I can do what's required of me, but we will. We always have everything we need to participate in the fulfillment of our desire. We learn along the way, we grow along the way, and we add to our knowledge along the way, and we become full participants of it. So God is a movement of awareness from the invisible to the visible, and it flies on the wings of ideas and is shaped by consciousness. So it may seem daunting at first, but think about this. All we ever have to do is change our thoughts. How many of you have ever changed your mind about anything? And how about something big in your life? A really big change. And what happened? You had different results, right? You had a different experience than you had before you changed your mind. That's what we're meant to be doing all the time. That's how we co-create with Spirit, by changing our mind, not its mind. You know, old-fashioned prayer was trying to get God's to change its mind, this outer power. But our spiritual mind treatment changes us so that we get back in sync with what Spirit is already trying to do, when that is to manifest good and beauty and order and harmony and love and prosperity and joy and peace. That's what it's trying to do through us, is reveal itself, and it is all those things. I do believe that. So it may seem too easy, but it's the secret. Change your mind, change your life is the secret, and everyone here knows how to do it because we've already done it many times in our life. So when we open up to possibility, our whole life seems to expand. So we want to think above the phrase. Say this out loud. I am the personification of God.
I am the personification of God.
And, you know, if you think about what that means, you're God being you. You're not all of God, but God is all of you. It's the more of us, the rest of us, the best of us, the not yet expressed of us. It's who we really are. A conduit, a way for this universal, pure love and joy to be seen and known as our life. So let's think about it this week. Let's name our year. Have you picked up any ideas while we've been talking about what your year could be? I think it would be fun if next week, we get together and share them with each other and support each other in them. And maybe even take them up to another level. We'll see what happens. But name your year something that scares you. If it isn't scary, it's not big enough, because it means you already know how to do it. So we want to raise the ante, as it were, and name our year beyond anything we've currently experienced, but is an expansion of it in some way. And be willing to be changed by it. That's one of the great secrets of this teaching, is to be willing to be changed by the word, the new word that we introduced into our mind. To be willing to be changed at depth. Because that's the only place that needs to change, is within our own self. So everybody here is capable of raising their life experience many levels this year. We are all capable of it. It does not depend on anything outside of us. It doesn't depend on the economy or politics or germs or anything. It depends on us and what kind of a net we're throwing out and what we're willing to do to be a full participant in a magnificent life. That's true. And these ideas, when we think about paying the rent or mortgage, and it's tough right now, these ideas may seem way beyond us, but that's what we need. Ideas that will pull us up out of the ordinary into the extraordinary. We're meant to do that. Okay, so let's go back into treatment. And let's let ourselves be completely open to these simple truths. That God is the power that makes all things new, and God is who I am in form. I am a personification of what God is. I am an individualization of what God is. I am the way to reveal what God is. And spirit, God, is energy, it's movement, it's consciousness, it's awareness, it's beingness. And so my heart and my mind are stayed on that truth. I give myself the great gift of thinking beyond the fray, of seeing through the hustle and bustle, the chaos, into the deep peace that is behind everything. I allow myself to be drawn to readings and music and ideas that elevate my heart, elevate my mind, open me up to this pristine, beautiful universe and all that is possible in it. I raise my mind, I respect my mind, I give it nurturing ideas, healthy ideas, spiritual ideas. And I begin, and I'm speaking for all of us, by naming my year. What shall 2019 become? It is mine to decide. It is mine to say. It is mine to name. And I know that the beautiful principle of co-creation takes me at my word and guides, leads, directs, prompts, nudges, pushes me into the fulfillment. And I let myself be taught from within. I let myself be guided. I let myself be changed. And I know that for this place, I know it for this teaching, I know it for this center, that we are all, humanity, all of us are on the brink of a magnificent discovery. The power of the human heart and mind. It's all we need to make everything new. And so with deep appreciation for this teaching, for each other, and for who we are as a group, we let these ideas filter down and rise back up within us. And we're very grateful to know these truths and to have the support of each other. So let's name our year and let it have its way with us, beginning right now. And so it is.